Hi, Linda. How are you today?
Well, I'm fine.
Well, today's a big day in the economy, sort of. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Trump's rotten economy, and then I'll add to it,
Well,
because it gets more rotten the longer we talk.
well, actually, today, I guess what we're talking about are two important economic historical facts.
No, absolutely.
One is what is a Ponzi scheme,
Oh, yeah.
and the other is Tulip Mania.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I would ease us into this discussion
Sounds good.
of how we're being led down the path, this time not by Altman, but by his dear friend.
The Musketeer.
That's right. But I did want
Mr. Muskie himself.
I did want to close out my discussion of Altman. This is part 3 for those of you who are listening loyally. I've discussed before what we learn about Altman's hypocrisy from an article by Ronan Farrow and Andrew Marantz, Moment of Truth, Sam Altman May Control Our Future, Can He Be Trusted? This is in the New Yorker, April 13th, 2026. The answer to the question is no. So today I'm going to focus on his hypocrisy and the Pentagon contracts that he's received. Altman stepped in to replace Anthropic's pending contract with the Pentagon while publicly stating solidarity with Anthropic's ethical positions. This happened in 2025, so I'll give a brief background. But it's another example of what an opportunistic hypocrite this guy is. In 2024, Anthropic secured AI contract with the Pentagon for its most classified operations. In 2025, the Defense Department awarded Anthropic an additional $200 million contract. So,
Nice.
that still means something.
Yep.
But Anthropic refused to provide support for autonomous weapons or mass domestic surveillance. In response, Hegseth, our hot-headed idiot, broke off negotiations and designated Anthropic a supply chain risk.
Well, when you won't do what he wants them to, that's a risk that they won't do what he wants them to do.
But
kind of tautological.
however, this designation is usually reserved for companies tied to foreign adversaries.
Well, Pete Hegseth's real adversary is the U.S. democratic system. So
Fair enough, then.
anybody who doesn't do what he wants is not bending their knee to
Yes.
authoritarianism.
He's, what a disgusting human being. But
And stupid to boot.
yes, this is a pretty stupid thing to do because it left the Pentagon officials scrambling to find somebody who would take the contracts. Hundreds of Google and OpenAI employees signed a letter titled, "We Will Not Be Divided," supporting Anthropic. Altman wrote an internal memo to his OpenAI employees supporting Anthropic's, quote, ethical boundaries, close quote. So from what we know about Altman, what was he really doing?
Hoping to get the contract.
Precisely.
God, I love capitalism. It
But-
gives me so much to talk about the negative aspects of human nature.
He had been in negotiations with Pentagon officials for 2 days when he wrote this. Now, the problem that OpenAI had was that it did not have the necessary security clearances that Anthropic had. But a $50 billion deal with Amazon was announced 2 days after negotiations with Anthropic broke down. The deal integrated OpenAI's technology with Amazon's web services, which already play a significant role in the Pentagon's digital infrastructure. So problem solved. That night, Altman announced on X, or Twitter, that the Pentagon would be using OpenAI software. So that was about a 48-hour turnaround.
Yeah, it worked nicely.
The same day, a funding round increased OpenAI's value by $110 billion.
Well, that's real money.
It still is, isn't it?
Yep.
Now, Altman, what I don't understand about this guy is that he admits his inconsistency, or what I would call hypocrisy, particularly in the area of assuring safety. He was always about that, but now he's walked entirely away from it. Altman calls Trump's deregulatory stance, quote, very refreshing, close quote. Sounds like a gin and tonic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which means that Altman agrees with Trump and his cronies to ignore concerns about safety.
Yep.
Altman previously endorsed the principles of a think tank called the Future of Life Institute. The Future of Life Institute states its mission is to steer transformative technology towards benefiting life and away from extreme large-scale risks. So we would say it's trying to do the right thing. And that's all I know about it. But it does grade AI companies on an existential safety scale.
Oh.
And you thought grading econ papers was hard.
Yeah.
OpenAI from the Future of Life Institute receives an F.
Okay.
As did every other major company except Anthropic, which received a D, and Google a D minus. By the way, D minus is a grade I never understood and never gave.
I didn't understand D's. It's just a dumb grade, It's like either you passed or you failed. What's the D? A participation trophy?
It's always a good question when you're grading.
Well, no, it isn't because I don't use them.
Well, I mean, among people in the sciences and social sciences who think that curves mean something. Bless their hearts.
Oh, there are some curves I'm really fond of.
Well, you stop that. Just okay.
Okay, we should be serious all the time. That'll encourage our listener.
Okay, now let me turn to a professor emeritus at NYU. So somebody special. His name is Gary Marcus. He is a prominent AI researcher and cognitive scientist. Now, he's positioned himself as a very vocal critic of deep learning and AI, and he really is very, very smart on the subject of large language models. He says, I know he's smart because he says the same thing you do. That all they are is predictive of what the next word might be.
Yeah.
That's it. They don't think. He has studied large language models and disputes most of the claims about the generative capacities of AI. He was interviewed by Steve Eisman, a major player in investments, on Eisman's podcast. About the value of AI, Marcus quipped, "I don't pay for sex, and I don't write with AI."
Okay.
I saved that one just for you.
Oh, well, actually, this came up in the news today.
It did.
Yes. In the areas where AI is big, the cost of escorts has gone up dramatically to between $2,000 and $6,000 an hour.
Explain.
I don't know. All I did was read an article that said, this is all of a sudden getting really expensive.
People are using AI to book escorts?
Oh, they've been doing that for a while. But in other words, there is so much money being tossed around in this community that the people in this community have very high disposable incomes, and our working folks are taking advantage of that by raising their price.
Oh, you mean people who are earning a lot of money developing AI?
Yeah, well, people in that kind of trade aren't known for their good social skills.
Well, that's right. That's why I was interested in what Gary Marcus had to say.
Well, I think he's making the same observation I did.
I think so too.
Though I don't think he included the price discussion.
No, he didn't go into how it's driving up the price. Okay. Now,
That's what The Economist does.
he did say what we were talking about last time, that the large data centers will not produce the results of AGI, and that's what everybody's looking for, creating artificial general intelligence as they are predicting. And we last time discussed it and looking like a boondoggle.
Yeah, absolutely.
He also compared the current fevered response to AI to Tulip Mania. Now, the reason I like that was I thought of that comparison a week ago, so I decided he must be really smart.
Your criteria just enhance my good feelings about you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Tulip Mania lasted from 1634 to 1637 in what we now call the Netherlands, which introduced the tulip. At its peak, a new variety of tulip sold for just over $150,000 in today's money.
Yep.
So when that crashed, at least they were left with some tulips.
There's actually a very funny story about that, where this famous writer went to a friend's house, and in order for them to enhance your status, people had to know you had them, and he thought they were onions and ate them. Yeah, true story.
That was like my kind of guy.
It's like, oh, little onions.
Marcus has been highly critical of OpenAI as overhyped, which brings us to today's discussion, because everybody else has been discussing it, and we thought our listeners should get a deep dive into this ridiculous IPO that our dear friend Musk put forward, and to raise a whole bunch of money for himself. I mean, for his company, sorry.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. As I start, I want to commend Paul Krugman's blog today, where he talks about Elon Musk, the human Ponzi scheme, and it's good reading. I'm going to start, though, by giving you some of the basics of what is going on.
Exactly.
Today is an initial public offering, sort of. What it really is that Elon Musk managed to con NASDAQ, a stock exchange in the United States, and the Financial Times stock market in England, to begin public trading of the SpaceX shares in less than a year. So they went on sale retail today. Mm-hmm. Ordinarily, the big exchanges wait at least a year, and Standard & Poor's is holding back on including this. Now, this is really important to you because some track the stocks in these particular indexes. So there are funds that track the value of stocks in NASDAQ and the Financial Times index.
And this affects
pension funds.
Exactly.
And 401ks and 403bs.
Yeah.
Because when we buy into a mutual fund, if it is an index fund, it has to include all the stocks in the index, which forces you to buy SpaceX, whether you know it or not.
Yes.
And this is a Ponzi scheme. So we're going to go into this very carefully. I'm going to describe what's going on here. Initial public offerings are the issue of a new stock shares for sale, ostensibly to raise money for large-scale capital projects. It is important to understand the mechanism by which these are created and executed in theory and in reality. First, companies do not issue stocks. The initial public offering is underwritten by an investment bank. Yes, youngsters, this is what investment banks actually do, and it is ordinarily pretty tame stuff. A small startup business, entrepreneurial or just ordinary, which is what most are despite their founders' pretensions, is dangerously undercapitalized in two senses. It needs money to build productive capacity, but more likely, it doesn't have enough money to cover day-to-day expenses while it gets on its feet. If the company shows growth potential, it may do an IPO to raise money to address both concerns. These are important, but by contemporary standards, modest affairs. Now, this underwriting thing. Underwriting means the investment bank handles the mechanical work to create the stocks and then sell them. The first is a technical task, necessary for regulatory reasons and tedious. The selling of the stocks is usually a quasi-criminal conspiracy against the public. Underwriting is therefore a critical financial process in which institutions assess the risk of a proposed transaction. They do this by evaluating factors like an applicant's financial history or market conditions. The underwriter determines eligibility, who's going to get to buy them, and sets fair pricing. Okay, in this case, for the stocks. And they guarantee the deal. Now, all the other stuff's not all that interesting, but that last one's really important. What does that mean? That means the company is always going to get the money agreed to with the underwriter. In this case, the investment bank. And this is risky for the investment bank. So the investment bank does two things. It recruits other investment banks to participate in the deal, thereby sharing the risk and the selling responsibility, which is where the investment banks recover the money they promised the company. Notice the company always gets the money specified in the deal.
Okay, now, go back to quasi-criminal conspiracy against the public.
All right. Here's how this works. In big cases like the SpaceX one, the shares are sold to customers through the investment bank. This is the IPO. In the SpaceX case, 556 million shares were sold to the, quote, public for $135 a share. Let's do the math. That's $75 billion, the largest in history. That's the money the investment bank got, out of which they give money they promised to SpaceX and pay their expenses and their considerable fees, which is how investment bankers get rich. It's the fees. And a little something else. The news keeps suggesting this will make Elon Blood Diamond Musk a trillionaire. Now, Mr. Technology Purchaser was worth $835 billion as of June 1st. These figures are always estimates, meaning guesses, but notice two things. Musketeer is $165 billion short of $1 trillion, and the IPO is worth $75 billion. That doesn't add up to $1 trillion for those who are a little math crippled. And Muskie isn't getting all that $75 billion, which still wouldn't be enough. The thing is, in these big IPOs, and here's the criminal conspiracy part.
Right.
Insiders, in quote, purchase over 80% of the shares at that initial price. That means Muskie gets a bunch of shares himself to make sure he doesn't lose control of SpaceX to shareholders, and also to have a really big number left over for the resale market. Now we get to it. The other insiders will include SpaceX stakeholders, from SpaceX employees and board members to a few other flunkies who need to be rewarded. The investment banks themselves, large investors willing to buy really large amounts. Think institutional investors like your pension fund and investment companies that have large customers. And terrifyingly, in this case, mutual funds where much 401k and 403 money is invested. And they are the ones who paid $135 a share plus fees. See the fee thing again? This fee thing just keeps coming up.
Okay, so the other thing that I noticed in the skeptical accounts this week is that Musk will retain control of 80%, which means nobody's going to control him.
Precisely.
He can do whatever he wants
Yeah, and he already got all his money back.
because the
They
investment
get
banks
paid up front.
guarantee it.
Yeah. So where does the real money come in? Well, because of NASDAQ being totally corrupted, SpaceX will be traded on the stock exchange today. That means, dear friend, you can now buy SpaceX stock today for whatever price people are willing to bid for it. Good luck. There is a saying in poker that if you sit down at a table and can't identify the sucker, you are the sucker. Well, John Q. Public, you are the sucker. The money you pay for the stocks does not go to SpaceX for investment purposes. Indeed, it is not an investment at all. It is a transfer payment to the people, the insiders who already bought the stock $135 a piece and are putting it up for sale to see how stupid you are. And all the money goes to them. That is where Elon Huckster and his friends, the investment banks, big investors, will recover all they spent on the top end and whatever value is achieved by suckers bidding up the price for the stock on the resale market, thinking they are participating in some big investment. The insiders will make a shit ton of money, and the village idiot Musk will once again hit the jackpot, earning the highest rate of return on an investment on his part on, well, nothing, just as Thorstein Veblen described in the second decade of the 20th century. This is why Senator Elizabeth Warren has slammed the Security and Exchange Commission for approving this IPO.
Okay, I have two quick questions.
Yeah.
Explain something to me. I thought it was the role of the SEC to approve listing stocks for
They
sale,
literally regulate stock markets, yes.
but that they really weren't judges of the quality of the stocks?
Of course they are.
Well,
There are certain
that's what I
criteria
thought.
they're supposed to meet, and SpaceX filed a petition to have it approved. It was eventually approved through whatever the normal process is, but they also, the SEC approved it going out on the NASDAQ exchange today, not waiting a year, which was the traditional.
I get it. Okay. Well, you know, I have now had read to me by various commentators what's in that original proposal. What's it called? An S1?
Yeah, well, they're confidential. We're gonna get to more of these. They're confidential, and we're gonna ask the question: what does confidential mean to the SEC? Because everything seems to end up on the internet within about 24 hours.
Yeah, and it sounds like it was written by a lunatic.
Isn't it interesting that people who own AI companies can't write a paragraph even using their own AI?
Well, this is what occurred to me. I thought it sounds like a man on drugs.
I have been looking at things published by these companies for the last 2 days, and honest to God, use ChatGPT, folks. You invented it. You should be able to write and complete coherent sentences.
Well,
They're predictable.
what does it mean to say you're going to extend human consciousness to the universe?
Well, first of all, I would like to extend human consciousness to the electorate. Wake up, folks.
Yeah, exactly.
But, it doesn't mean anything. And it's, the kind of language that we used to make fun of.
I just don't.
Along with crystals under your bed.
Exactly. Exactly. It sounds like a new age ashram is being formed. Now, what about Thorstein Veblen? Your reference to him.
Yeah, as soon as these markets opened up in the 1910s, when companies went to bond financing to raise money for railroads and things of that sort, that's where investment banks came in. They sold the shares or the bonds. They also create the bonds to raise the money for these things. But Veblen noticed something, and that is the resale market basically was involved pretty regularly in what's called pump and dump, where you build up a lot of publicity for a stock. On the resale market, the price goes up, and then the people who own the stock dump it at that high price. to take advantage of the stupid consumer. And he said that basically that's the goal of capitalists. They're in the highest rate of return on nothing they can. Well, Elon Musk has pretty much mastered that.
Yes.
Yeah, so he has a talent, stealing. Okay, let's take a look at who ends up owning these turd shares, and do they make any money? Possibly. But keep in mind, as P.T. Barnum put it, no one ever lost a dime underestimating the stupidity of the U.S. people. So people will speculate in this stock, and some will make money while others will lose. Usually the winners get what the losers lose and no more. It is a zero-sum game. It is gambling, except the house has already taken its vig up front. And the suckers are paying fees that lower their respective wins and increase their respective losses. Notice how the financial companies always make money off of fees everywhere, right? They don't care who makes money and who doesn't as long as they get the fees.
Exactly.
Now, there is the possibility that SpaceX will produce a product that does not blow up and earns profits. And they have already been given lucrative government contracts by the Department of Defense, or war if you are a sadist, narcissist, fascist. So there is money to be made, but this alone will not create dividends large enough for the stock to pay for itself for a very long time, given the likely inflation of the price per share as a result of speculative buying for shares of SpaceX that began today. So you should remember, as with all gambling, which is what this is, the house always wins, and it has already done so. So you have already lost on this transaction, and because it is listed on the NASDAQ, it will be in your pension fund whether you want it to be or not, and that is what Musk is betting on.
Right. And the one other
See, that ensures sales because those indexes
Yes.
must buy this stock.
whether they want to or not.
Right.
Yes. Well, it's very interesting the way they set this up so that they don't lose, but we can.
See, it now no longer matters to the stakeholders in SpaceX if anything works or not.
Well, precisely.
They already got their money.
Yeah, and that's one thing that has come up that we haven't mentioned yet. This is really about a float for the AI side.
Right, right.
And what happened was Musk sold AI or XAI to his company
Right.
called SpaceX.
Yeah.
And it's because they need capital to make these huge data centers. And the data centers are being built on the supposition that the more chips you have and the more computer power you have, the quicker AI will learn how to replicate itself or
Right.
make new inventions, none of which is proving to be true.
Well, as our friend Paul Krugman points out today, unfortunately for Musk, XAI's grok is, by all accounts, much inferior to the AI models offered by Anthropic and OpenAI. It's also widely considered unsafe and unreliable, and at one point it began spewing racist and anti-Semitic comments, dubbing itself Mecha Hitler. Trump administrative officials have pushed the government agencies, including the Pentagon, to use grok, but with little success. This is Krugman I'm quoting right now. This is all about getting money for AI, and all of these IPOs that we see will be the insiders getting their money out and letting the suckers speculate, and it doesn't matter to those people whether they succeed or not.
Well, that's what we kind of figured out last week, looking at what Altman thought he was doing with this project that will cost $1 trillion to build all these data centers, many of them in the Middle East, where fresh water is kind of at a premium.
Right. First, you're going to generate electricity, then you're going to build these server farms that need to be cooled, and that's going to take water.
And what Marcus was pointing out today is that the notion that just using more and more computer power will make AI generative is simply incorrect. That what works is what Anthropic is doing, which is building in the symbolic attributes of language, that is their coding, and that does make their AI more effective. So we're going to wind up with all of these data centers baking in the data in the desert sun.
Right. And we're going to have a rash of these IPOs very quickly
Yes.
to get the money, to get other people's money to
Yeah.
do this with, or just to take off and go to the Bahamas. I don't know. Some people will do that. They said that, 100 employees at SpaceX will become millionaires today because they do get some stock, right? But here's a little bit.
Right.
Let's talk about the next two likely
Right.
huge IPOs,
Right.
and that's OpenAI and Anthropic. Okay, let's begin with OpenAI. Polymarket has reported that OpenAI has submitted a confidential draft registration statement for an initial public offering with the Security and Exchange Commission, which regulates IPOs. While no official public listing date has been set, Wall Street expects the debut as early as September 26. The company is reportedly targeting a valuation of roughly $1 trillion or more. That would be the initial sales to insiders and a few others. Now, the interesting question becomes, what do these guys actually do? What are you buying into? Well, of course, OpenAI is ChatGPT. Most everybody knows what that is. It writes text and stuff like this. And there's a free version, which my students are well aware of. Okay, so it's a conversational AI chatbot. It writes text, solves problems, and searches the web. There are workspace tiers, which means plus business and enterprise options that are for businesses. And then there's ChatGPT for education, which is for universities and schools to use AI safely in the classroom. Developer services are to help people use AI to accomplish tasks. Then there are specialized tools for people who are writing code and creating specialized models for, and these are real products, okay? The prices are already established, and the OpenAI API pricing page is available. So that's where you can find out about the free version of ChatGPT. It is interesting that all these materials are badly written. Why don't they use ChatGPT like my students do? Some service and products involve custom pricing, but again, $1 trillion worth of this stuff, really? Which mostly sells for chump change by corporate standards, makes it seem iffy that the dividends will cover this amount. However, if people, like yours truly, do sign up for a monthly fee, it does add up. There is no doubt, however, that by the same process described for SpaceX IPO, OpenAI insiders will cash in big time. They are covered even if this company is not among the survivors of the inevitable AI company consolidation and bankruptcies. Remember the tulips. Remember, bubbles always burst, and companies that go under and are acquired leave the stockholders of these defunct companies with the equivalent of the old maid, all right, of the card game, meaning you lose and your stock is worthless.
Precisely. And so that's what they're setting us up for.
Right. They've already got their money. It doesn't matter to them.
And it's
they would prefer to make a lot of money. There is the possibility, like we said, that he will create something that won't blow up. And these companies actually do have products, but the products are not generating big revenue yet. Now we get to Anthropic, which Google already owns 14% of, which is really kind of interesting here. Google owns currently 14% of Anthropic, but it's also developing its own AI topic.
Right.
Now, this is very interesting in that when a company owns more than 5% of another company's stock, they're required to inform the SEC whether they are an investor or are attempting a takeover at 5%. Now, unless the law has been changed, Google has already made their intentions clear, though they could file to change them. So apparently Google is an investor in the company. Anthropic also filed a confidential filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission for an initial public offering. Well, now, I'm getting these reports in the financial press. While the exact timing and share price are not set, an offering could happen as soon as fall 2026. One does wonder what confidentiality means in this case, because all the financial press is already talking about this confidential statement.
Right.
They expect their offering to have close to a $1 trillion valuation. Now, Anthropic developed Claude, a family of advanced AI models and productivity products, useful for people, developers, and businesses. That's the market here. They have a chatbot. They have Claude for Enterprise. They have developer models. They have a developer model called Haiku, which is the fastest and most affordable model. They have another one called Sonnet.
Oh,
and
for
they have
heaven's sake.
Sonnet. Yeah, the flagship model, balancing intelligence and cost efficiency. And Opus/Fable, the premium. Okay, prices are similar to OpenAI's, and they include a free customer subscription, which is all most people need, if they need it at all. Organization and enterprise plans are more expensive and involve custom pricing. So the IPO will be a cash windfall for the current insiders of this company, including Google, which is also a competitor in this market.
That just sounds so strange.
It seems like an antitrust violation to
It
me.
does to me, too.
All right, but that's now what else is going on? Because these are just three big players.
Right.
Well, Apple has announced Siri AI, which is powered by Google's Gemini AI.
Right. And so Google's everywhere. But
Yeah,
notice,
they're really covering their bases.
yeah, but notice that Apple is just not playing this game. It's being very, very conservative
Right.
because I think they don't see the return.
Well, the thing is, they, by using it on the iPhone, could be the biggest sale of AI. If it's on their computers and it's in those phones
Right.
and in the watch I'm wearing, now those cost money. And
because
there's
it's vertically integrated.
right.
Yeah.
It's not just the little Siri that my grandkids play with in the library at my house. It's integrated with all of their technology.
Yeah.
And if they don't like Google, they'll pick another one with the next version.
Yeah.
In other words, they've in this dogfight for AI dominance, they'll just pick the winner.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me that Apple seems pretty canny, but you're right. It's because they have products they can build it into.
Yeah, and they are a design company, so they have engineers who know about things like AI. And interestingly, this successful of a company does not seem to want to play this game.
No, they do not.
Yeah. Bezos is involved. His Prometheus has raised $12 billion in investment funds, and this was from private investment and equity companies. Their products are being developed, and they focus on prototyping and pre-production processes, which is a little bit different. The scary thing about the private investment and private equity companies is that these are generally not really big. They're big investors by our scale, but they're not huge institutional investors. They buy in and they get out. They generally have a 5-year time horizon, so they're speculative. The scary thing is, of course, they need backup, and private banks are investing in the private investment and private equity funds. Oops.
Oh, that could cause huge problems.
Right.
That could have a real knock-on.
This could have a real bad impact
Yeah.
on the banks if these projects fail. It's sort of like the problem we heard about a couple months ago about how companies building computer programs are suddenly not very relevant because AI can do these things.
Yeah. All right, everybody.
More cheery news on top of cheery news here.
We can't find anything really happy clappy to say, so you're on your own, sweetheart.
You always were.
Yeah. see you again next week.
Yep.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.